Right, this is Dennis Miracle. Good morning. Today I'm going to be making a bag I've designed called Chantilly. So let me show you the pieces you're going to need. It's a 6 by 10 design, as almost all of my designs are. You're going to need fabric for the front. There are two pieces of fabric needed for the front. You need one piece of fabric, and then you need something to complement it, which I'm going to use as vinyl. And then you need, and these are cut 7 by 11. You need a piece for the back, and I'm going to use this for the backs, cut 7 by 11. You need two pieces of lining fabric, cut 7 by 11. And you need a couple pieces of batting, one cut for the front side, one cut 6 by 11, and for the back side, one cut 7 by 11. I'm going to use this little device here to connect a wristlet strap, in which it's just a piece of grosgrain ribbon with a key ring placed in between and stapled at the top. You're going to need a zipper 12 to 14 inches long, and I've chosen this white zipper, and make sure it opens before I put it in and find out later it doesn't. It works fine. Okay, and so that's what you're going to need. You're going to need, obviously, matching thread and the other things we use when we're doing sewing. Here is the first stitch out on the first step, and you can barely see the pink stitching. Unfortunately, it's very light, but I'm going to, well, I need to turn my light on here. That'll help. Come on. All right. Give us a little more light on the subject. What I'm going to do is take my white zipper, and you see we've got the zipper area has 4 lines starting from the top, 1, 2, 3, and 4. The zipper should fit between lines 1 and line 4. If it's a number 3 nylon zipper, it should be 1 inch wide. Now these two center lines, lines 2 and 3, this is where the actual stitching will occur on the zipper. So if you have some other type of zipper that you're using, just, line it up and know that this is where the stitching's going to be. So, make sure your zipper will work with these lines here if you're using something other than a number 3 zipper. So let me go ahead and place this here between lines 1 and 4. It fits perfectly, and I'm going to take tape and tape it down. And I put a little piece right at the very edge up here in the center. And then another piece over here. And that should hold it down just fine. And I'm going to stick this back in the machine and run step number 2. All right, you can see the zipper has been sewn down, and it's a little close on one side over here, but I'm hoping that'll be okay. So the next thing we need to do is turn our frame over to the back and get out our lining, our first of the 2 lining pieces. And we're going to take this lining piece face down, and we're going to center it between the 2 sides of the bag, but we're going to place the edge of the fabric to this 4th line down. So let's do that, and it looks fine on the sides, and then tape it down. I tape one in the middle and on both sides. Okay, there we are. Okay. Now take and just let your piece of fabric fall over to the front as you pick it up, because we're going to just take it and fold it over several times and attach it here with tape to the frame of the hoop to get it out of the way, hold it out of the way, because we don't want it being stitched on for quite a number of steps. So now let's take our first piece of fabric, and I'm going to use this pretty dachshund print, and this will actually be 4 area along the top here and an area along the bottom. So take your fabric. It really doesn't have much of a orientation. It's all different directions. So just take it and place it face down on this, right against the edge to edge with the zipper, and tape it down. Make sure it's okay on the sides. Okay. All right. Okay. Now let's take this over to the sewing machine, and I told you that it's going to stitch right here where my finger's going, and it's going to stitch actually right. This is where it's going to restitch over this line here. So you always know where your zipper fabric is going to be stitched at. So let me stick this in and get it going. Okay. Okay. All right. Now, let's turn it over, look at the back first, and make sure it's okay. Yes, nothing came loose, everything held, so it's fine. And now on the front here, I'm going to take the smaller piece of batting, the 6x11, and place it right under the stitch line here, about 1/8 of an inch to 1/4 of an inch, and then pull the fabric over it and take my iron, kind of pull it here, smooth it down tautly so that it will not be bunched up, or I like to get a nice crease at the top, and I think I'm accomplishing that. Okay. Now, the next step is going to, this is an optional step. I keep taking it out and putting it in of my designs because I can't make up my mind. I personally like it. It's going to stitch all around, right under where my finger, right where my finger's going, all around, and it's just in essence going to hold this piece of fabric and the batting down underneath it, just kind of like a basting stitch. And I've put it in this particular design. A lot of people don't run it. They don't see the need for it, but I'm going to do it. And, you know, it's up to you, whatever you want to do. It's probably not needed, but I feel better using it, so that's what I do. So let me stick this in the machine and have that occur. All right, that's ending up, and let me show you what that looks like. Okay, there we have it. Now it's held down. And the next thing we're going to run is step number 5, which is going to run the top placement stitch for the next piece of fabric we're going to put down. So let me do that. right, now you can see this line here where I'm pointing out, and I'm going to take this piece of vinyl, which I'm not really wild about, but I'm going to use it, and place it over, and I think I'll put a little piece of tape on the sides just to make sure it doesn't slip over. And I'm going to stick that in, and it's going to do the same stitching over that to hold it down. And I'm going to turn off the camera during that time. I don't guess I really need to be doing that and wasting your time. So be right back. Okay, you see now that the stitching has been done to hold this down. So what I'm going to do is, what am I going to do? I'm going to cut with my scissors, my applique scissors, and I'm going to cut in from the side here, and I'm going to cut this right on this side, this here in the center of this piece of vinyl. So let me go somewhere where it's bright and I can see what I'm doing, and I'll be right back. All right, you can see I trimmed this top part off so our dachshunds are still where we want them to be. And then we're going to stick the machine in, and it's going to do the, stick the design in the hoop, and it's going to do some pretty stitching, satin stitching along these edges here. So let me do that, and I will turn the machine off because I'm sure you don't want to see 15 minutes of that, or hear it for that matter. So I'll be back as soon as possible. All right, you can see the satin stitching has been completed. All the raw edges have now been covered over. It looks really pretty. Now the next step is it's going to run the first step, same as this up here, only on the bottom it's going to run the placement. Well, the placement, don't really need the placement, it's already placed down. So I guess I could take that out of there. But anyhow, it's going to run a placement line, and then the tack down, and then I'll be cutting it, then trimming it, and it'll do the same satin stitch. So let's do this one at a time, and I'll be right back. Now let me show you. This has run a placement stitch, but I have just gone over to the software and deleted that step, which was 8, because it's already here, so I don't see a need to do that. So that has been cut out, step 8, and now step 9, which now will be step 8. It's going to do the same thing. It's just going to tack. This would be a tack down stitch. So I'll go ahead and run that, even though it's not totally necessary. And then I'll be doing the trimming. All right, and again, you can see the stitching here, which tacks it down. And what I'm going to do is go and cut again, coming in from the side. I'm going to cut on this side where my finger's at of the stitches, and get rid of this piece of plastic here at the bottom, just like I got rid of the piece of plastic at the top. And then it'll be doing next the satin stitches. So let me go where it's bright, and I can do this, and I'll be right back. And I'm not a great trimmer of applique, so I'm going to take these even finer scissors and try to get rid of some of this, because I don't want this showing. I don't know if my satin stitch is wide enough to cover this kind of overhang. And luckily these scissors are fairly good. This is a thicker piece of vinyl than I usually would be using, so it's okay, well, that's pretty thick there. Okay. Well, come on. Okay, all right, I think I've got it a little bit better. Hopefully it won't show from underneath the satin stitch. So anyhow, now I'm going to stick this in the machine and run the satin stitch down below here. So I'll put it in, and then I will turn off the camera while it's doing its business. So you don't have to listen to it. I'll be right back. All right, well, I actually think that looks very nice. And now I'm going to do, this is a point where the quilting is done. It'll be first on this area here, this area here, these fabric pieces. And I'm going to change from this pink that I've used thus far to a gray, since there's a lot of gray in the dachshunds, with the dachshunds. Let me do that. And then I'm going to run I'll be right with you. Hold on. All right, that's taken care of. Okay, now stick the hoop in and we'll have some pretty quilting on the top and the bottom here. All right, the next thing to happen here is there will be quilting here in the center, and I'm going to change it to a slightly darker pink, more towards this pink and this pink. So let me do that, and I will do this last part of stitching through here. So I'll be back in a moment. All right, as you can see, the quilting has been completed, and I think this is so beautiful. Just really, really beautiful. So the next thing we're going to do, finally, we're going to let this piece of lining fabric fall back to the back. Let's see. Let's reach in and grab these pieces here on the side. We can probably use them to tape it down. Pull it taut, and then use the same tape if you can here on these sides to hold it down, because we're going to stick it in the machine and it's going to go all around these four sides of this lining and sew it down. So let's do that. Okay, let's turn this over to see if it got everything right and did a good job. Yes, it did. So let's turn it back to the, well, no, before we turn back to the front, we need to get rid of the stabilizer in back of the zipper. And I'm going to start it by using just this seam ripper to give it a little help. And then I'm going to take my thumb. Now, most of you probably know, if you followed me for any length of time, I use paper towels as my stabilizer. It's worked for me. It may not work for everybody. So you have to be a little more careful, but I just take the back of my thumb here. I don't have any fingernail or nothing long, and just take and give it a, once you get it started, just give it a little push. And there we are. It's gone. No cutting, and I can't tell you how many times I've used either zippers like this, or clippers like this, or a seam ripper, and have sliced my zipper where making it just unusable. So this works best for me, but I'm not telling you to do it or not do it. If it, something you want to try it. If not, that's fine. So let's turn it back over to the front, and let's take this piece of tape off that initially held the zipper down. Put it in the trash because it's all mangled up, and open your zipper about 3/4 of the way. That looks good. And then let's take our back fabric. I'm going to use more of this pretty dachshund fabric, and that's it doesn't have any orientation will do because it's all scattered dachshunds. So just cover what you already have, making sure that you do have fabric going past the zipper up top. So that's very important. Down here you see where the stitch line will be, so you've got plenty space there. Take your piece of batting, the other piece of batting, and put it directly on top of that, and just smooth it down. And if you have a machine that's capable of allowing the embroidery foot to go a little higher, like brother and baby machine, brother and baby lock machines, I would suggest you increase the embroidery foot height some. And I know I'm putting mine up to 160.160, and that'll give plenty of clearance. If you can't do that, then just be very careful. Watch it like a hawk to make sure that it doesn't dig into your dredge, into your fabric or batting and cause a real issue. So let's put this in and let it go around and close. It's going to close the bag up in essence. So let me do that and I'll be right back. All right, now you can see that the design has basically been closed up. Here's the head of the zipper here. What I'm going to do now, the very last, oh, I forgot to put in my, well, this should have gone in right for this step. Let me see, I'll take my okay, do you see I've opened up a little hole here? I'm going to take and stick my little connector piece in there, and okay, let me find my stitch line is right here, and it's not going to touch the metal, so I'm going to put this back in and roll it back to right here and redo that. Okay, go back to the prior step. Okay, got that taken care of. You saw that I just used my seam ripper and made a little space in there to stick that in, and that's the way you do it if you've forgotten and left your zipper out here also, and you've closed this up. You just rip these stitches back and you can finagle the thing in there. So I've done it many times. It's always worked. Just a little extra effort. All right, now we're ready to turn it over to the back of the design, and we're going to put on our last piece of fabric, which is the last piece of lining. So just take and cover up the lining that's already here, and make sure you go a 1/4 inch above the top of this top line here. And you're fine at the bottom, because you see the stitch line is right here, and so it'll come up. Well, this will be open. This is going to leave this open so I can turn the bag. So let's take now tape, and on all 4 corners, let's take and tape it down. Okay, and then let's stick this in the machine and run our last step. So here we go. Now I have done a little something different with this last step. I have made it a bean stitch or a triple stitch or whatever you want to call it, so to make it a little stronger, so it won't, so it should last better. So anyhow, I'll let it do its thing, and I'll be right back with you momentarily. All right, you can see that the design is finished, And you can see it's left a nice area here to turn the bag through. So let's take it out of the hoop, check our hoop to see if there's any pieces of tape attached, which there shouldn't be, but often, okay, here's some right here. Piece of tape down there, let me get that off. And then any tape on that, no tape there. Now, I always cut my fabric purses from this lining side so I can see clearly where I'm to cut. So take your scissors and go in at an angle right here at this bottom right hand corner, and then just turn your scissors and follow at about 1/4 of an inch to 1/8 of an inch the line, stitch line, and we'll be done in a moment. I always trim that at an angle there. So let's go along the top here. Just takes a minute or two. And I do a little angle here also, right like that. Okay. Okay, and follow it down. Okay, and then coming around this last bend here. All right, well, I had a camera malfunction, and I played it back, and I saw where I was just coming to the point, coming around this last curve here, and so I just removed all of that extra junk that is not necessary, and then I had taken and folded in this piece of lining and pressed it, and then folded in this piece of line. Well, no, I'm getting ahead of myself. Okay, this was before I had turned it out. Let me show you what happened. No, that's not right. No, that's not right. I had pieces of fabric that I had cut away. I had cut away all of this extra batting and stabilizer and just left with these two pieces of interior lining fabric. So what I'm doing is folding them in, folding both pieces in. I had folded them in and took them, used my iron, make them lay nice and flatly, and so I'm going to take this over now to my sewing machine and stitch a little line of stitches right by the edge here between these 2 points, and I'll be back in a moment. And I apologize for that. I did not realize it was about to die. If you don't understand what I've done, this is the way I make every single bag I do. I think there are 54 bags loaded on here on YouTube, so you could just go back to the last 1 or 2 and see that particular step if you need to see it more clearly, because like I say, I didn't get to show where I cut off that extra bit of fabric and such that wasn't needed, so I apologize again for that. But I'm going to go over to my sewing machine and sew this closed, and I'll be right back. Okay, now I've finished sewing this. As you can see, I've sewn a line through here, and all I need to do is take my little clippers and get rid of some of this. Here's a little thread here and a couple little threads right here. So do that, get rid of that, and you'll see other threads up through here that need to be gotten rid of, but you can, I'll do that at some other time. And now at this point, we're ready to open the bag up. So you might remember we had taped down that piece of, well, no, because I forgot to put the thing in to begin with, so I didn't tape it down. So just go ahead and open your bag up. And let's see what we have. Let's see if it's something we're proud of, or pass or fail. and take and kind of mold your zipper like I'm doing here, so where it turns the right way, and make sure the zipper was caught. That's why I tell you to make sure you're 1/4 of an inch above the top of the zipper with the fabric, because a lot of times on my own bags I will find that it hasn't caught this piece of fabric and there's an opening right here. But so I've been very careful about just making sure that the fabric is above the zipper. So anyhow, let me shut it, and well, let me see. You gonna shut? Yeah, okay. Now let me take my pressing cloth, because I don't want to melt this vinyl, and let's go over it very quickly. Don't dilly-dally. Okay. All right. I can smell it getting hot. And then let's do the back of the purse. And I love dachshunds. I've had 8 of them in my life, and I'm down to the last 2 brothers and sisters who are twins, and they're about 12, so I'm a big lover of dachshunds. Okay, I'm going to give this one more little press and hope I don't melt anything. Okay, I think I didn't. I did not. Well, I think it's a beautiful design. I don't like this white, shiny white, but actually it looks okay. It looks fine. So anyhow, you can see this is the Chantilly bag, maybe with different fabric. I'm sure it would look a lot prettier. But this is for a friend also who likes dachshunds, so I thought I would kill 2 birds with 1 stone, if I can use that expression, and make this for the listing and make it for my friend. So here we are, and I just want to thank you for taking the time to be with me. And if you obtain this pattern, I hope that you will make something beautiful for yourself or a family, friend, or loved one. And I always take time to thank those who continue to support me, to encourage me in making these designs, because I really enjoy doing it. It's something I really enjoy doing. Not much money in it at all. I'm not doing it for the money. I'm doing it for keeping my brain halfway awake and alive. So that is a big part of what I do, is trying to keep my mind busy. So anyhow, thank you, all of you, so much. It's a weekend. It's a Saturday morning. I hope you have a great weekend, and I will see you soon. I've got 3 or 4 more I need to do today, but I don't know if I'll get them done. But anyhow, thank you again. Bye-bye.